Good afternoon and welcome into the Fan Interference Podcast. I'm Everett Hutto along with Tim Beeman in the studio. Ty Collins is on his way to South Carolina to watch baseball this weekend, so he is joining us via the Zoom.
Yay!
Bijan, I don't know, Wizards something or other, he's not with us.
Wizards always find out when our podcast schedule is, and they're like, we got a meeting.
Yeah, I don't understand what it is. I don't know why he pays attention to the Wizards, to be honest with you. I mean, I know it's his job and all, but they're terrible.
No, sorry. I know it's what pays you, but why do you pay attention?
I mean, I guess I understand. All right, well, happy first day of the NCAA basketball tournament for all those who celebrate. I'm a little disappointed I'm not at a bar doing this podcast in front of multiple televisions.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
It used to be, there was a time when I was working as an SID at both UNC Asheville and Winthrop, where we would take PTO for these 2 days. We'd go to a bar at 11:30 a.m. because the game started at noon. We would not leave that bar until around 9 or 10 p.m. We would have had lunch and dinner at the same place.
Nice.
But that hasn't happened in quite a few years, I'm sorry to say.
I did it once. I was working at a TV station, and then they figured out how big of a sports fan I was, so then they figured it out. So it's like, oh, you calling in sick, or you got a what's
you don't
this?
call in, you just take PTO, and it doesn't matter.
I know. Then I did this is the greatest part. I had a jury duty.
Oh, there you go.
And then jury duty did not happen. So it's like, well, I'm already out anyway. Guess I'm going to be watching the tournament.
Yep. So today is the first day of the official bracket. Yes, there were play-in games the last 2 nights, but nobody pays attention to those. Although, to be perfectly honest, there were a couple of results from the play-in games, the 11 seeds. You had North Carolina, who everybody was upset that was in the tournament. Just couldn't believe that North Carolina made the tournament.
And West Virginia didn't.
And then North Carolina goes out and beats San Diego State by 30.
Yep.
Saying maybe it was South Carolina
surprised.
State. Maybe it was San Diego State that didn't deserve to be in the tournament. And then on the other side, you have the SEC that had 14 teams in the tournament. Because the 14th best team is better than, everybody else in the country. And Texas goes out with a whimper, so they're now only 13 SEC teams in the tournament.
You hot tub salesman, Lunardi. God, I'm gonna wipe this in your face again.
So let's start there. Let's start with those 2 games. Let's start our teams. I don't really care about the games. Those 2 teams, North Carolina. How did you feel, about North Carolina making the tournament? Now, how do you feel about them going into the first round?
Yeah, I feel good. I know I'm ABC. I am. What's really,
That's anybody but Carolina for those of you not in the North Carolinas listening.
I got a bunch of texts, about like, how does Carolina get in? I said, the question really, the better question is, why do we, as the ACC, have to beg to get 4 in?
No, that's true.
The better question.
That is the better question.
So, and the fact that we have to beg to get 4 in, I still don't believe this shit. Excuse me. I'm still pro ACC. I just don't. I mean, year after year, I keep seeing what the ACC does better as far as percentage-wise and getting farther in the tournament than say the Big Ten or the SEC. And I hope it does it again. And it's going to hurt me to root hard for Duke and Carolina and Clemson, and Louisville. But I'm going to.
Well, I agree with you.
It won't be as hard for Louisville because of Kelsey. So
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a mixed bag with Kelsey. Kelsey did a good job at Winthrop. He was at Winthrop for a long time, and he was there when I was there. So I like him, but I know that he's such a used car salesman. And it just grates
he's a part
on
of
me.
the Prosser tree, though. That's why he's going to get my pick.
Well, and that's fine. But the thing is, when he was at Winthrop, he made a big deal that he got to 100 wins faster than Greg Marshall, or in less games than Greg Marshall. because he's a used car salesman. And so what he does is he makes these things. And although it's true, he did make it to 100 wins faster than Greg Marshall did. He had, those great wins over Johnson and Wales, Morris Brown.
What? Yeah, but what did
where Greg Marshall was beating
Marshall
he was beating Miami, Georgia Tech, teams you've heard of before.
Fair.
Because Coach Marshall used to go to tournaments. Coach Marshall used to go to tournaments and play Miami and Georgia Tech because he wanted to get the team ready for the tournament because he knew he was winning the Big South.
Yeah, fair enough. A couple of times I ran into Pat Kelsey at the Starbucks on Robin Hood Road, and that was when our 3-point defense was struggling, and I was about to go up while he was doing some work and having coffee. I was about to say, "You working on that? How to stop people from shooting lights out beyond the arc?" But he grew on me because he was a Prosser's tree, and so he gets a benefit of the doubt.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it to bring the motorcycle and the tie-dye to Wake Forest?
It's a good question. I know it came around in
because if you listen to Pat Kelsey, he says he did it.
Oh yeah, that's right. We talked about that.
Yeah. No, he's definitely told me that he is the reason that the motorcycle and tie-dye came to Wake Forest.
He might have something to say with it, but I
don't think he did it.
I can find out for sure because I know who to go to directly to find out. So.
Okay, do that. That's your homework assignment. But anyway, this is not a Pat Kelsey. Like I said, I like Pat Kelsey. I've known him for a long time. But I just think he's so overstated and he's such a used car salesman. It kind of just annoys me.
But you know what? And this is, I know we're talking about tournament because we missed last week, but this also brings up to the discussion, and it's a huge discussion. Why that was it earned by Kelsey to win ACC Coach of the Year rather than Shire? And I think both have great arguments. I'm sure you both have a great argument, but
I can make an argument for either one of them.
Yeah, but the flip around for Kelsey, I think, is more impressive because we Everett, you and I saw what Louisville was last year. They were trash.
Yeah, they were trash.
They didn't even care. They didn't care. He came in and within a few months flipped the whole culture. I'm sure. I mean, he also was able to recruit, get some transfers, but he did that in a very short time, which I think to me is more impressive than what Shire did because you're bringing in the best recruit. Of course, that's part of coaching, but you also have some that are coming back. I think they're already ranked high as it was. Duke, yeah, one of the best teams in the nation. I just think the most impressive coaching jobs done in the country was Kelsey.
Well, so you have to look at this one of two ways. Or I should say there are two ways to look at this. And it's kind of this classic discussion that you go back and forth with. Is it easier to take a team that you know is good and meet the expectation? Like, we know Duke is good, so they have to be great to meet their expectation. And they were. They went 19-1 in the ACC. So it's difficult to meet expectation when your expectation is you have to be the best. You're picked first. You better be first. You've got to be great the entire time. That is a high expectation, a high bar, and you have to meet that. And Shire did. So, yes, it's easy to say, well, he's got the best players. Yes, he does. But you have to meet the expectation that was set, and that expectation was first or nothing. Like, you have to be the best or it's a failure. And he met that.
All right.
So
you need to wait till the end of the tournament.
Well, and he might. And so that's the notion for Shire. The other side of that is you've exceeded expectations. How much did you exceed expectation by? And Coach Kelsey exceeded expectations by like 9 places. I think they were picked 10th and they finished second or something, or 11th and finished second.
Yes.
They way exceeded expectations because nobody thought Louisville was any good. But what does Louisville have going for it? Louisville has money. Louisville can pay players to come in And so it's a little bit easier to get transfers. It's a little bit easier to turn the culture around in 1 year when you're giving players money. And as we said, Kelsey is a used car salesman. That is his greatest strength as a coach. He can convince people to play hard, and that's what he does. I think he deserves Coach of the Year. He took a team that was, like you said, crap last year, and he made them number 2. They were 2 or 3. They might have been 3, but whatever it was, 2 or 3. They were tied with Clemson. I can't remember who got the tiebreaker. And so that was a huge turnaround. Just like Steve Forbes. Steve Forbes' first year, he got ACC Coach of the Year because he took a Danny Manning team that was terrible, and he got him up to like 5th, and he got Coach of the Year. In the ACC, bringing a team up from the bottom to the top is considered more valuable than being great the entire time. And that's what John Shire's point was. I think Shire has actually had a really tough job. He took over from Mike Krzyzewski, the greatest coach in ACC history, arguably. One of the top coaches. He's the winningest coach in NCAA history. You take over for that guy, and people expect you to fall off. Has he fallen off? No. His team's currently ranked number 2 in the country. I think he's done a hell of a job. It's hard to stay good, even though, yes, you have the best players.
Ask Pete Gaudet.
Ask a lot of people. A lot of people take over for the guy, and they falter. Ask Hubert Davis. Hubert Davis hasn't been... He took over for Roy Williams, and he has struggled some.
Although the run he
had to the national championship.
Got the national championship.
But he was lucky to get in the tournament that year.
Fans, if you listen to Carolina fans,
they want to fire him. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to fire him.
No, I agree. And going back to North Carolina, just because that's where this started, I had this discussion with Randolph Childress when he was doing the, I guess he did the Virginia game, right? And we had this big discussion during shoot-around. And Randolph's point was the whole season matters. It's your body of work. You have to be good from October till March to get into the tournament. And if you suck in October and November and December, that shoots your chances in February and March. My position was, I think you have to allow teams to get better. Like, if you lose a couple games in November, okay. How are you playing in March? Well,
especially now with transfer portal, because you have to put it all in a pot and it takes a while for it to gel.
Exactly. Now Randolph will argue with both of us and say, no, it's the entire season. It's the body of work. It all counts. And I can see that argument. But with North Carolina, down the stretch, now they weren't great in November. They weren't even great in January. But down the stretch, they were 11-2. In their last 13 games, they were 11-2. Guess who those 2 losses are to?
And they had a brutal schedule.
Right, but they lost all those games.
2 losses to Duke.
The 2 losses are to Duke, right. So, yes, the brutal schedule, they didn't win any of those games. They went 1-12 against the brutal schedule. And that's why he says they didn't deserve to be in, because they went 1-12. But at the end of the season, when it matters, they were 11-2, and both losses are to Duke, and one is because of a lane violation.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're playing for. I've got North Carolina in the Sweet 16. Like, I think they're one of the best 16 teams in the country.
Me too, and I hate saying that.
Well, I mean, look, they're talented. They have players.
When they can run, they can run.
Yeah. I mean, I had them winning. I had them in the Sweet 16 before they even played the other night. And who do they play? They play Ole Miss, who I think they're going to beat. And then they play Iowa State in the second round, provided Iowa State beats Lipscomb, which I think they will. But Iowa State's got some injuries. I think North Carolina's going to beat them. I've got North Carolina in the Sweet 16 against Michigan State. Now I have them losing that, but still.
I hope.
Where do I have?
I don't know. Look at your bracket.
I have them playing Marquette.
Marquette's not getting past Michigan State. But okay, that's fine. You got them in the same place.
Okay, why?
Because Michigan State's really good. Tom Izzo, hell of a coach.
Okay, well, let's do. Let's see. We could figure this out, though. And
All right, before we
back and forth. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the next thing I want to talk about was Texas, not even Texas, the SEC. So the SEC got 14 teams in record. Jay Billis said that South Carolina is the best last place team he's ever seen. The league has 16 teams. They got 14 of them in the tournament. That's pretty good, and the SEC is good. Now, obviously, with 14 teams in the tournament, they're not going to all go far because you're going to end up having SEC on SEC crime in the second and third rounds. They're going to beat each other. You're going to lose a bunch of teams fairly early.
Right.
How many SEC teams do you have in the let's say in the final 8? How many SEC teams do you have in the final 8?
Let's see, 1, 2, 4.
Okay, I have 3, probably because I have Alabama losing to Wisconsin. So I assume that was your 4th.
That was one that I did fight.
Yeah. And I went back and forth on Illinois and Tennessee, but Tennessee beat Illinois earlier this year, and I think that game was at Illinois, and they beat them by like 10. And I'm like, I think Tennessee's just better. I like Illinois, but I think that Tennessee's better, so I put them through. So I have 3, and then I have only 1 in the final 4 because I have Tennessee losing to Houston. And Florida's a problem for me because although I think Florida is probably the best team in the country, and they may very well win the national championship, I can't pick them. It's against at least 3 of my religions, so I can't pick them to win. So I've got St. John's beating them just on principle alone.
I got Florida winning the whole thing, bro.
I'm not surprised. I think they very well may be the best team. Like if they win, I will not be surprised. And if I didn't dislike them as much as I do, I probably would have picked them to win, but I can't.
Duly noted.
So I actually have Duke winning.
That's who I have winning.
Beating Auburn in the final.
Not knowing anything about it, that's who I have winning.
Yeah. I think Duke's really good, and I think Cooper Flagg's going to be fine. I think the concern with Duke is he sprained his ankle in the ACC tournament. Is he okay? I think he's had, 5 days to heal. They don't even have to play him against Mount St. Mary's if they don't want to. He'll be ready to go when it matters, and I think he'll be fine.
Well, I mean, Ken Palm, it's 1 and 2 with Duke and Florida, and I usually go by Ken Palm.
Yep.
Now, the one thing that the Florida has the edge on is they're shooting over 35% from 3 for the year. So their shooting is a little bit better than Duke.
Yep.
So in their defensive efficiency is up there too. Well, Duke is as well, but you match those all, and they slight edge with the shooting percentage from beyond the arc.
No, and the other thing I think that Florida has an advantage is inside. I think Florida has 2 7-footers who are pretty good, and somebody said they were like Noah's Ark. They've got 2 of everything. They're deep. They have posts. They have good shooters. They're really good. I think Florida's a really good team.
And so is Houston. Houston can shoot lights out. This is the best shooting team that Coach Sampson has had in his years there.
Yeah, but I think I think with my reservation on Houston, and they are very good, is that I think against a good defense, either Florida or Duke, I think that shooting percentage is going to come down. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to shoot that percentage against Duke and Florida.
Well, I think they'll have a test against Gonzaga. Clemson will be somewhat of a test. I think that they just end up getting by that. They'll have the biggest test will be against Tennessee because Tennessee's defense is good.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's even better. I mean, Clemson's defense is good, but not as good as Tennessee's.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that's a tough region. I've got Houston going through to the final, to the semifinal against Duke.
But Houston is the best defensive efficiency team in the country too. So these are all good marks for the Cougars. So I mean, they've checked the boxes, like best shooting, great defense. and up there in the Kim Pong. So yeah, like I fought with myself about putting Houston over Duke, but since they meet in the Final Four, Duke gets the edge.
Because they have the best player. Like I think Cooper Flag. I think Cooper Flag takes over that game.
I don't think they have an answer for that yet.
And that's it. That's the whole reason I picked Duke, is because I think Duke and Houston are very similar. I think they're both good defensive teams. Houston may shoot from outside a little bit better. Duke has a little bit. Knipple, I think, is strong inside for Duke. I think that they've got talent, but at the end of the day, Duke has the best player in Cooper Flag. So that's why I went with them.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So what else do we want to talk about brackets here? What is your how? It sounds like our brackets are both pretty chalky. I know mine's chalky. I got 3 number 1s and a number 2 in the Final Four. I don't have a lot of upsets, and the upsets I did pick, I pretty much have that team losing in the second round, so it doesn't really matter. I guess North Carolina's a bit of an upset into the Sweet 16 because they're an 11. I had a real problem with Vanderbilt and Alabama because Vanderbilt's a 10 and Alabama's a 2, but Vanderbilt beat Alabama during the regular season. And so I was like, you know what? They could beat them again, but I think Alabama's going to play the you beat us once card and not going to let it happen again. I got VCU beating BYU.
Me too.
But like I said, most of my upsets are like I said, they're just one round upsets. I don't have them going very far. I have Colorado State over Memphis.
I got San Diego upsetting Michigan, which
see
stuff to do.
No, that's a popular one. But here's my reason why I don't like that one. Because Michigan just won the Big Ten championship. And they feel slighted because there are 2 other Big Ten teams ranked higher than them.
Yep.
Wisconsin, who they beat, is a 3. And Illinois is a 6. I think it's Michigan State, who they also beat, is a 2. So Michigan beat both of those teams. They're both ranked higher than Michigan as a 5. And everybody's calling that upset. Like everybody's saying, oh, yeah, San Diego's really good. Yeah. They're going to end up beating Michigan. I think Michigan's going to be locked in on San Diego.
Sure, they will be. But, I mean, I don't think – I mean, this is one of the top 5 teams defensively in the country. And, they didn't win 30 games for nothing. So I did go back and forth. But I'm going to pick with – the reason I picked UC San Diego, and I think Michigan's on the right trend up. But – I think because of that defense, because of the maybe the hangover after winning the Big Ten, although there is that motivation because they were slighted in whatever their seedings. But yeah, but I still think the defense is going to be too much for Michigan. It'll alter their shots, and it'll be a upset for San Diego.
All right. So how far do you have?
Regardless.
So how far do you have San Diego going? If you think they're going to beat Michigan?
Yeah, I mean they lose to Texas A&M the next round.
Oh, see, I've got Yale beating Texas A&M. I do, and the reason is because Yale's tough.
Forth, but I win Kemp.
Well, that's fine, and you may very well be right. But that's one of my bigger upsets, 13 over a 4. But I think Yale's tough. Like they've got tough, strong kids who are pretty smart. I think they can. I think they can give Texas A&M a hard time.
They will.
But that's sort of my region of that. What is that? The South? That's my region of upsets. I've got Yale, North Carolina winning, and I've got North Carolina going to the Sweet 16. So that's sort of my upset bracket. Although at the end of the day, it still comes down to Auburn and Michigan State. So it's not that upset laden. But I am very chalky. There's a lot of chalk on here. It's
What does that mean?
Chalk just means it goes by seed. The higher seeds win. Because if you draw out a tournament and you just chalk it out, that means the higher seed would win every game.
Okay.
That's what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's kind of what I did. Like I said, I don't know anything about it because I hate college basketball. But
you wanted to do it just for fun.
I just do it to see if I can randomly guess well.
All right. So my Final Four was Auburn, St. John's, Duke, and Houston. Yours is Auburn, Florida, Houston, and Duke. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you took all number 1 seeds. I took 3 of them.
I just have Duke winning. I don't know.
You don't know the 4? Okay. All right, so I want to talk about Toby's bracket. So I have for a number of years allowed Macy and Toby to fill out a bracket.
Who are these?
Macy and Toby are my dogs.
Oh, okay.
And I have to write it out for them because they have Popple Tunnel. And so, unfortunately, Macy's no longer with us, but I still let Toby pick it. I'm a little concerned about his bracket because he's got Texas A&M, UConn, Gonzaga, and Mississippi State in the Final Four. All dog mascots, by the way.
How does he pick that?
So he picks it by a dog mascot will always win. So if there's any matchup that involves a dog, the dog goes through. If it's an animal that he's afraid of, the animal he's afraid of goes through. So Alabama usually goes pretty far because he's afraid of elephants. Bears go.
You've taken him to see elephants?
Yeah, we've gone to the what is that? Well, it's not elephants, but that what's the name of the Lazy Five Ranch? Mm-hmm. He's gone through there.
Okay.
So bears usually do very well because he's afraid of bears. But it's funny because his final 8 are all dogs except one. He has Walford in the final 8 because they're terriers. He's got Drake Bulldogs in there. He's got UConn, Gonzaga, Huskies, and Bulldogs. New Mexico Lobos did well. Mississippi State and Texas A&M. There's just all these dogmas. 7 of the 8 are dogs. So we'll see how it goes for Toby. I fear it's not going to go well, but you never know. He's got UConn over Gonzaga in the final because a Husky is I guess a little bit more fierce than a Bulldog. I don't know.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that it is, but
bigger.
He's got bigger. Go with that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't have the Lobos going further. Wolves usually do well.
Yeah. That's why he got NC State last year, right?
Yeah, he had NC State in the Final Four. He definitely did. He was one of the few. I think he had UConn winning. I think he had UConn and NC State in the Final Four. And maybe Nevada, I think, was in there as well. But he had 2 of the Final Four last year and had the national champion. So I think he did pretty well. Probably did better than Billis.
Pretty good. Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And for those confused, Texas A&M, although they're the Aggies, their mascot is Reveille. She's a lassie dog. I can't remember what the breed is, but
it's a collie, right?
Collie, yeah. So yeah, that's what Texas A&M's mascot is, a collie. So
yeah.
Is it a collie? That doesn't sound right for some reason. It might be border, maybe lassie. Whatever lassie. That's what the dog is.
Yeah, that's collie.
Okay, well,
it's collie. A lassie dog. It's a lassie dog.
If you say lassie dog, everybody knows what you're talking about. Well, everybody of a certain age knows what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I know that's right.
Couple things before we call. Is there anything else on the tournament you want to go over?
No, I just again I want the ACC to do well so we can continue to run this told you so thing. But other than that,
no. Yeah, Duke wins. That'll be good. I don't have the ACC going terribly far because I've got Louisville losing to Auburn. I have them beating Creighton but losing to Auburn. I've got Clemson winning a couple. I got them beating McNeese and upsetting Purdue, but eventually losing to Houston. In North Carolina, like I said, I got them into the Sweet 16, but eventually losing to Michigan State. I do have Duke winning, so depending upon how you say winning counts, but I've got them all winning their first round games.
I said I created a bracket, and I did because it said 60 whatever of 60 done, but I can't find it. So I do want Duke to win. So let's go with that.
Okay. So there's one other topic that I want to bring up. I've made a tragic flaw, and the bourbon is too far away from me. But
I'll be the producer and produce some.
Thank you. I don't know why. I usually put it on the table. I don't know why I didn't this time. Thank you. Did you see this story about Dion Sanders and what he wants to do with the spring game?
No, explain that to me.
All right. So I don't know where this came from necessarily. Or actually, I guess the truth is I don't know why he was doing a press conference. Maybe it's the start of their spring and he just did a introductory press conference. Maybe people just like to hear Dion talk. I'm not really sure. But he came up with an idea that I think I'm a fan of. So what he wants to do is, instead of having your traditional spring game, which in his case would be gold against black, or just an inter squad game at the end of spring practice. What he would like to see teams do, or he wants Colorado to do it, is he wants it to be like an NFL style. And I didn't know what it meant when I saw NFL style, but now I understand. The NFL often, I think it's the third week of the exhibition season.
Oh, where they collaborate.
Will collaborate with another team. Right. They'll do a week of practice against a team, and then they'll play that team on the day, on the Saturday or Sunday, whenever it is.
Yeah. It's usually the Steelers and Commanders for us.
Yeah, and I think it's been the Dolphins and Falcons, and they just do it. They pick a team. It's not always the same team, but a lot of times it is, and they have this game. And so what Dion's basically saying is he would like to invite another team, who's having spring practice sort of at the same time, the last week, practice against that team, and then have the spring game be, Colorado against whoever. Now, what I heard was Syracuse was interested. And I think Syracuse actually sent Dion or Colorado a note saying, hey, we'll do it. Like, we're good. If you want to play us, we'll play. What is your thought on this?
I think it's good. For someone that just, you see these spring games, and it's really just, I don't even know why they televise them, because
it's football and they want content.
There's no format to them, right?
Right.
It's there, but there's no format. It's like 1st and 10. What?
Right.
And now 4th and 10. What happened? But like now, if you want, you're all about revenue, driving revenue. You think about a time where people would love to see some football. The spring games as it is gets good viewership.
Well, at some
now
places.
Add like another team, and like you're actually getting a little spring football.
Yeah,
right.
I think spring games are terrible. Just on the face. They're scrimmages. They're not even real games. And to your point, the coach can just say, no, let's do that again. Like, we're not even going to count that play. Let's just run it again, and it doesn't count. It doesn't matter. Or, like you said, I got to get the third string quarterback in. I'm just going to give this team 2 possessions in a row. There's no actual rules to the game. The coach can just make up whatever rules he wants because he's the one running the practice. He's oftentimes on the field. He might be standing behind the quarterback, and it's a practice. You're showing up for practice. And the other thing that bothers me about it is you're playing against your team. Like, it's really hard to tell how your quarterback is any good when he's going against a defense that he knows everything about. He doesn't really have to read the defense.
None of them want to hit him, so
you can't hit him anyway. Like, you're not even with this new thing. Even if you did, you wouldn't be able to hit the quarterback. I'm pretty sure.
No. I don't mean that, but I mean they're extra careful.
Confident.
So it's just
right. But you've been going against this defense for 4 years, possibly. You know everything about it. You know every player and what they can do and what they can't do. And you throw for, and I'll give you a great example is not Kearns. Who was the quarterback for Wake Forest 2 years ago that struggled and transferred to Furman? Mitch Griffiths. Griffiths, yeah, that. He was great in the spring game. He went to the spring game, played outstanding, threw for 200 yards and whatever, and everybody was like, oh, look how good he's going to be. Well, he wasn't good because he held on to the ball too long, which you can do in a spring game because nobody's going to hit you. And he knew the defense and he knew all the things. I actually think it would be good, to have a real game, and you could sell real tickets. Instead of 10,000 people showing up, you might get 30,000. You might only get 20, I don't know. But you would at least get the opposite. The opposing team's fans might come. So not only is it just your fans, you get a second fan base involved. So that's got to help ticket revenue. Mm-hmm. I think it makes it more interesting for the broadcast partners because, look, I love Wake Forest and all, but how many people are staying up to watch the gold-black game of Wake Forest? I mean, it's one thing if it's, especially if it's Georgia's red and black game, okay, maybe you get some people watching it, but there's a lot of schools that aren't making any money on their spring game.
Again, it's hard to follow because, like you said, the coach can change the down because he wants to look at something else, and you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. So I think if you practiced against a common opponent, and I don't know who it'd be. I mean, if you're Wake Forest, are you bringing Appalachian State down the mountain, or are you, going and playing Washington State, maybe because you got their coach? I don't know.
Yeah.
You could. I don't know how you would select who you play, basically. But if you did a home and home with whoever it is, so play 1 year at our place, we'll play the next year at your place. Then you at least have a 2-year agreement with whatever school it is. And you practice for that week and you get to see other players, other plays, things that you don't know everything about. And then you play what's, look, you would still, you still wouldn't be able to hit the quarterback, probably. They'd have a green jersey on, two-hand touch or whatever on the quarterback. I don't know what you would do, but I'm sure you can't hit them. And I'm not saying it would be the most competitive game. It might be a little bit like a Pro Bowl where it's a pretty vanilla defense, but, at least it's a different defense than what you're used to. I think there's something to it.
You're still going to get pushback because of possible injuries. So
and there's going to be, but there's possible injuries in the spring game too. I mean, even playing against yourselves, there's possible injuries. Yeah. Now, I think that you've got to take some of that into consideration. I'm not saying everybody's going 100 miles an hour. They're probably only going to go 75%, 80%. But who knows? Maybe some guys are going to go full out. I can see some. Obviously, the finding of the opponent would be challenging, or what kind of opponent do you play? Do you play a good team? Do you play an FCS team? Do you play an in-state team? Do you play somebody that you would never ever play? How do you pick this team? There's a lot that would go into it. I'm not saying it's easy, but I like the thought because I think spring games are just a ridiculous waste of time.
Yeah.
Not a fan, huh?
Not really. No, I don't like them. And I don't watch them. I mean, and that's really the thing. You can tell me that the Georgia spring game's on, and I'm like, okay, Georgia's going to win. I mean, it's red and black. Do I care?
Who you rooting for?
Yeah, I mean, at least if Georgia plays, I don't know. Let's go crazy and say they play somebody like Ohio State. Then you've got interest. Even if they're not going full out, and even if it's not a game that counts, if you just have Georgia and Ohio State on the same field against each other, people are going to watch it. And I'm not saying that's who Georgia would pick. I don't think they would pick Georgia Tech.
I was about to say, what about Georgia Tech?
Yeah, I don't think they would pick them. I don't know who they would play. I mean, they might play Georgia Southern. Hell, I don't know. That's kind of my point is, how do you choose this team that you're going to play? Like, if they picked Georgia Southern, for example, is that anything more than playing? I mean, they're better than Georgia Southern. They're always better than Georgia Southern. So I don't know that would help them a whole lot. I think it would be better for them to play somebody like I said, Ohio State would be great for television ratings. But let's say you just played somebody like, I don't know, Penn State. Okay, just somebody random, but somebody that's good, so that would be a competitive game. I think you would want to pick someone kind of in your ability range, I would say, but not somebody that you would normally play. Like, not somebody that's on your schedule for next year, but somebody that's sort of in your kind of ability range. So you're playing talented players on the other side, or non-talented players. Like I said, if you're Vanderbilt, maybe you don't want to play Penn State. Maybe you want to play Purdue. But at least you're playing sort of the same.
Well, I mean, you don't get preseason in college football, so this would be the only preseason that you could use it as. So
exactly, and I mean, the game wouldn't count.
Yep.
I'm not suggesting it counts for anything. It's just a scrimmage, but at least it's a scrimmage against somebody that you don't play all the time.
Yep.
All right, I thought that was interesting.
Yep.
The only other interesting piece of news, and this is mainly for you because you're my resident soccer guy. I saw an article. It was on PTI a week ago, I believe, that said Manchester United, one of the largest soccer clubs in the world, is leaving Old Trafford. Is going to I didn't really get the whole story, so I don't know if it was they're looking to build a new stadium or they're in the process of building a new stadium, but they're looking to move out of Old Trafford. So again, for people who don't listen to the podcast often or don't know as much about soccer, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think of Old Trafford as being sort of Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park. It's an old soccer facility that's seen great soccer for 100 years. It's a pilgrimage. People want to go there to say they've been to the stadium. Is that correct?
Yep. That's correct.
Okay. So
something about with it's what they is Man United's upset that they have kind of faltered.
they've gone down a couple rungs.
They have not. They're not like what they used to be, and so they're looking at it as like how Man City did it, and then how like Arsenal, who left Highbury, which was a very intimate park, was great, but then they decided to go and get the Emirates, which is lots of seats, bigger venue, and it helped them as far as money-wise, but maybe that's what they're thinking. They want to go in that route.
Yeah, I'm sure it's every owner. I mean, every owner you meet wants a new stadium. They want it to be bigger. They want luxury boxes. They want the comforts and amenities, all of these things so that they can bring more people in, more seats, more money, higher ticket prices, more money coming in. That's what every owner wants. And if you get that, then you can maybe pay players more. So that you can get back to being the Man United that you used to be. But my question for you is, as a soccer guy, how do you feel about Manchester United not playing at Old Trafford? Like how sacrilegious is it?
I don't think it. Yeah, I don't. It's not. I mean, I don't know if it means that. You have to go across the pond to find out more about it, but like I don't think it has the same meaning like with baseball parks.
Yeah,
they do have a lot of history behind it. People are going to miss it, just like Arsenal fans miss Highbury, but it doesn't hit like, say, when Yankee Stadium goes down, or say someone says, well, the Red Sox are thinking about moving and getting rid of Fenway and moving somewhere else to get a bigger venue. That would hit
like
Well,
it
so
would be what they're talking about forever. So it's not the same.
right. So just to give it some context, let's think about this in terms of a baseball field and tell me what you think. So, the Yankees moved out of Yankee Stadium. They tore it down and built a new one. So they have new Yankee Stadium. And there was some stuff going on when they did that. Old Yankee Stadium was built in, I think, 23, or maybe it was 1930. It's somewhere in that neighborhood between 23 and 30. And it was a very old park, but it was a bit of a dump. I mean, it was dirty. And they built the new Yankee Stadium and tried to make it as similar as they could. The Detroit Tigers moved out of Tiger Stadium. Tiger Stadium is the same age as Fenway Park. They were both they both opened on April the 14th, 1912, the day after the Titanic sank, or the morning after the Titanic sank. And they moved to Comerica, and again, Tiger Stadium was cool. Is a neat little place, had a bunch of character. You know, the press box was closer to the plate than the pitcher's mound was. But they've been playing at Comerica for 15 years now, and nobody seems to really care. The Red Sox will eventually have to move out of Fenway Park. I mean, Fenway Park's 113 years old. Eventually they're going to have to move. And so I just wonder how you feel about it. I'm trying to figure out when Old Trafford was built. 1909. So it was opened in 1910. So it's slightly older than Fenway. It's technically slightly older than Wrigley. Wrigley was built in 1910, I believe. So yeah, it's an old. And the thing with old stadiums is they're not comfortable. Like, you've been to Fenway. It's small. The seats are small. The bathrooms are tiny. The concession stands are small.
Right.
There's a lot of things. People are larger now than they were in 1912 and 1920.
I resemble that remark.
And so,
Dude, you're not getting rid of Fenway.
they're going to eventually. I mean, it's not going to last forever.
Oh, no way. I got to find a fucking way, a better way to maybe add more seats. But they're not doing away with Fenway.
I mean, I don't know.
But
see, that's my point.
A mass protest.
Well, they did.
But that's my
Yankee
point.
Stadium.
Right. If they can do it with Yankee Stadium, they can do it with Fenway. The other one is Wrigley. Right? Wrigley Field in Chicago, 1910. It's actually 2 years older than Fenway. But again, it's little. Small seats. What are you going to do with these parks?
What are you gonna do?
I mean, I don't
Fenway's
know.
older than Wrigley, by the way.
That's right. I think you're right. I think Wrigley was 1914. I think Wrigley might be 2 years newer than Fenway. But yeah, so I mean, these, like I said, Tiger Stadium and Yankee Stadium, sort of in this same category, have been replaced. But now you're looking at Fenway and Wrigley, and you're going, yeah, it would be a crime to move out. Why would can you imagine the Cubs not playing at Wrigley Field? Can you imagine the Red Sox not playing at Fenway Park? No, you can't. You can't imagine Manchester United not playing at Old Trafford. But the places are old. If you can get more money and more seats and more amenities, I don't know.
Did you say old Yankee Stadium was older than Fenway?
No, it wasn't. Yankee Stadium was built in the 30s.
23.
23. Okay. I can't remember dates, but I knew it was not.
You start talking Yankees and Red Sox. I got to make sure you clarify.
Well, no, I knew Fenway was older than Yankee because it was the house that Ruth built. The Red Sox had already traded Ruth to the Yankees when they built it.
Yeah. No, Nanette.
But anyway, like I said, I just thought since it was a soccer story, you might have a strong opinion on it.
No, I mean, it definitely will jump on a headline. I think now just the way that like Arsenal, Man City, like Liverpool stay with Anfield, so that's a little bit different. But you're seeing a lot of these old parks go away.
I mean,
And
even Tottenham's
not-
now they moved away from White Hart
Right.
Lane.
Yeah, that's sorry. I guess intentionally decided not to bring up Tottenham, but yes.
Does that mean something to somebody?
But yeah,
To us,
yeah, yeah. And northern, it's a northern London rivalry.
North London Derby.
Derby. But yeah, but Man United's looking for something to ignite themselves, and this is what they think that might be it. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of curious. Because we're not watching basketball, things not going well for Louisville right now. They're down 73-61 with 4 minutes left. So Kelsey's got to get it going.
Kelsey, come on.
Or he has to give back his Coach of the Year award.
Right.
Looks like trouble for Houston. SIUE up 2-0. Still 18:52 to go in the first half. 1 minute in, they're losing. I think they're going to be all right by the end of it.
Players hadn't even come on the court yet.
No, they're a minute in.
Right.
What else you got?
Please, for the love of everything holy, do not let fuckneck Rogers
next
beat
week-
a Steeler.
I was going to ask you about that. Like, I don't think it's going to happen now because it's been too long. But there was about a week or a couple days there where everyone was pretty
Consistent,
convinced
yeah.
that Rodgers was going to be a Steeler. Now I don't think it's happening.
Yeah. Please, Lord, and
Well, you
whoever.
guys got to tell me. You guys got to tell me. Well, we'll talk about this next week because I got to get put this stuff on the bus so I don't look looked at like I'm a goldfish. But
They look at you like that anyway.
Celtics just got sold. So there's some other interesting topics we can hold off till next week.
Okay.
Yeah, but the Celtics they just got sold. Yeah, it was for 1.7 billion or whatever the number is. But
Pretty record
teams,
sell.
but teams get sold all the time. The next team that gets sold will break the record. Like those.
Yes.
No, they do. Like every time a team is sold, it breaks the old record.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was just interesting that sale went through. That's it. So
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
anyway,
no.
well, you guys have a good one. You wrap it up, Everett, and take a little sippy of the sippy sip sip.
Word.
What's he talking
Word
about?
and heard.
All right. So that'll do it. I think we're pretty much
Have fun,
at the
Mike
end of
Madness.
our thing. Yeah, enjoy the basketball. This is
Whatever.
the one time where everybody watches and the one time that everybody knows where True TV is on your television dial. Enjoy the madness. For Ty Collins, Tim Beeman, I'm Everett Hutso. Have a great rest of your week.
All right.
The views and opinions of this podcast are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no material from this podcast can be used or reproduced without the expressed written permission of the Less Desirables Network and Such Limited Incorporated.